electricity load management has been one of the topical issues when you come to Zambia, popularly known as load shedding or power cuts. And we've seen that ZESCO has staggered in terms of the hours of people being load shedded into two schedules rather, that is 4 hours each, and ensuring that everyone is kept abreast in terms of ensuring that economic perspectives as well as transformation continues to take shape. This is a conversation that we shall be diving on later on at exactly 8 hours on the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. On a Wednesday, we'll talk nothing but politics, policy and governance. And from the look of things, Wednesday appears to be one that we shall focus on policy. What exactly is being done by the power utility ZESCO to ensure that load shedding in Zambia is a thing of the past, as well as ensuring that the current status where we are in, things get also to be better for you, our audience out there, our viewer, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to it. This is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Nelson Zulu, and definitely I know it is also an exciting morning given the fact that the Chipolopolo or the Copper Queens were able to turn matters around after stumbling at a 2-1 loss at their backyard rather. That was at the time when they held a match at Levi Manawasa Stadium. But last night the story was different as the Atlas Lioness of Morocco danced to the tunes of the Chipolopolo rather, thanks to goals coming in from the Copper Queens captain Barbara Banda, who did make sure that matters were sealed, and we can safely say the Chipolopolo have actually qualified to the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, and it's congratulations to them. And let's get matters started on a Wednesday with the health corner, where we get to look at some of the health tips. And I know this week we've been discussing issues surrounding cervical cancer.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. So today we're going to talk about the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer. This week we have been talking about cervical cancer, and we want to understand what are some of the signs and symptoms. How can you know that you have cervical cancer? Now, there are different signs and symptoms, and sometimes people who have this condition might not have these symptoms, and so you might be asymptomatic, and you may only discover it at the hospital when they are checking for something else. And so it's important that you do screening for cervical cancer. If you are 21 years and above, you need to make sure that you do your screening at least every 3 years. So how can you know that you have cervical cancer, or what are some of the signs and symptoms? Number one is that you might experience what we call postcoital bleeding. And this is a bleeding that occurs once or after having sexual intercourse. And so you might experience that whenever you have sexual intercourse, you end up bleeding after the sexual intercourse is done. Or you might also experience what we call dyspareunia. And this is where you feel pain, or you have pain when you are having sexual intercourse. Other symptoms include abnormal uterine bleeding, where you are bleeding in between your periods. And so you might find that even after your periods are over, maybe in between, before the next period, you end up bleeding again. Sometimes it might be heavy bleeding, sometimes it might just be very little bleeding called spotting. So depending on how severe the condition is. The other symptoms include having menorrhagia. So you might experience that you have very severe menstrual bleeding. Whenever you have your menstrual periods, your bleeding is very heavy. If the cervical cancer has spread to other parts of the body, You might also experience other symptoms such as a back pain or having a cough, because maybe the cancer has spread to the bones or to the respiratory system, which is the lungs. So these are some of the signs and some of the symptoms that one experiences when they have a cervical cancer. The other symptom that I have forgotten to mention is that you might experience a discharge from the vagina. Sometimes it might be watery, and other times it might be a bit bloody, so you might notice a brownish or a reddish discharge from your vagina. Sometimes this discharge may actually have a very strong smell or a very bad odor, and so look out for any discharge that you might have, any abnormal discharge that you might have, and make sure you get yourself checked if you notice anything abnormal from your vagina. So if you have any abnormal bleeding, any abnormal discharge, if you have pain whenever you are having sexual intercourse, or if you bleed after having sexual intercourse, then you need to get checked and make sure that you get tested in the hospital to check if you have cervical cancer or if you are at risk of having or developing cervical cancer. So these are some of the signs and symptoms. I do hope you have learned something. Today we talked about the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer, and we say that cervical cancer can present with bleeding after intercourse, which is postcoital bleeding, or it could present with pain during intercourse, or abnormal uterine bleeding where you bleed in between your periods, or abnormal discharge where you have a discharge that is not normal. It can be watery or it can be reddish brownish. It can also have a different smell or a bad odor, and so you need to be able to look out for those symptoms. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you so much to our resident doctor there, Dr. Nakubiana Mufai. I was just trying to run us through in terms of the topic that is being discussed, that is pertaining to cervical cancer. And we saw that the topic today was basically based on the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer. And we're hopeful that you've learned one or two things. And right about now, we jump into our next segment, which is the money market, where we get to look at the performance of the quarter against major convertibles. There you have it on your screen. The United States dollar is buying at 24.46 in Ngwe and selling at 24.94 Ngwe. The euro is buying at 26.62 Ngwe and selling at 27.14 Ngwe. The South African rand is buying at 1.33 Ngwe and selling at 1.35 in Ngwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 1.08 Ngwe and selling at 1.69 in Ngwe. And the update is exactly at this morning at 07:12. And much talk basically is going to be based on the United States dollar, where we're seeing that it is slowly touching down to 25, and hopes are that things get to balance, because we've seen these fluctuations for some time, and one hopes that things just get to balance in as far as ensuring that there's also issues relating to the cost of doing business reducing, as well as the cost of living stabilizing. I think those are some of the topical issues when one talks about the issue relating to the dollar relationship with the kwacha. Right about now, let's get into zooming headlines this morning, where we get to look at stories that you would have missed in last night's bulletin of the news at 19:30. And one of the stories that we get to look at this morning is amidst growing concerns. Rather, it's a story where residents of Mutendere Eastern Lusaka have bemoaned the inaccessibility of accessing Milimil in their area, citing inconvenience as a primary concern. Dominic Mumba, one of the residents, laments that over long queues laments that they have to endure over long queues to ensure that they access the commodity. Mr. Mumba says there is urgent need for the government to decentralize the distribution of the commodity, and be rest assured that you too can be part of the conversation by simply giving us that comment on our Facebook platform, as well as ensuring that you call in on the numbers that are on your screen, and we'll be glad to hear from you in terms of what you think about this particular story. Let's get to look at that story in Tendere, and we'll be back on the other side.
Since fluctuations in the prices of mealie meal last year, Zambians have been struggling to afford one of their most prized commodity owing to its unaffordability. The prices, which started fetching at around 300 kwacha, so many citizens expressed worry as that was deemed too expensive for them. In response, government introduced the Zambia National Service produced mealie meal of Kalonga and Eagles, which came as a relief to many citizens as it was selling at a lesser amount of 230 kwacha. However, since the introduction of the ZNS branded mealie meal, citizens across the country have been subjected to long queues, which many people have described as inconveniencing as it derails their other activities. This is the plight of residents in Lusaka's Mtendere East, who in the previous day have been subjected to long queues and the late opening of their only localized shop where they access the ZNS branded mealie meal. In an interview with Camnet News, Dominic Mumba, a resident of the area, has bemoaned the development, further calling for the decentralization of the commodity.
Can't be queuing up for meal, looking at the supply of meal. Why can't the government just open a lot of tables so that people are able to get meal at a free cost? You know, I wake up early in the morning to want source for money to buy meal. Then the money which I've worked hard for, again I go and make a queue to buy meal. Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense. Because if they want to regulate meal, the same ZNS meal, sell it to the shops, give them the price, because there's a stamp there written it's not to be resold. Why can't you give the shop so that people can go and buy meal at their own free time?
Another resident, Mavado Piri, has expressed worry at the violence that has started emanating owing to the queues.
Tipempa mtitandizire vintu vavuta kuno kumtendere ma protest vantu vafuno paya na paunga vambopanga raini mungani mwakaunda muno vavuta vintu mtiganzire ko Tipempa government tirira kuno mbwene moneko mavuto yatu vintu zivyenda moshi nti varoti vantu mwapangira raini vantu vangabunki okupayiwa vamene ana daily paunga ndrama ili yako.
Meanwhile, another resident has called for government interventions on the matter.
Government abama suppliers ngachakwa bati bayishireisa pamo bayisayisura kona yambi ama shops kuno kumtendere east yabako nangu 5 abantu tetu baleba pamu line ngafirya kuri abakalamba ba mafumo at least bafuma apa bambi bako kuri nga yafula ya shops na abantu na poverty nishi yachitashani yache panako echo ndelo mbako fene kuri ba president besu kwa bati abama suppliers baisa isokona yambi ama shops so that kiu yatashani yapwa.
Chanda Mwango for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Mfuna cheba UPND. Tenderani imwe mukabwera pano mufuna kotiuza kufe sorry yotikuuza ine iwe nabahandika ukamba ine ndine wa UPND but kuma meeting kutani tinapezeka pano pena bwera na bwera vota as a UPND ifuna muntu uza bamene bayinira ba UPND ibamene ifuna vote kama tinaziwe maiti ngena batipisha mukabatipisha.
Commotion characterized Tuesday's Ward Development Committee elections in Lusaka's Mutendere Township, where eligible members of the community went to file in their nominations in readiness for voting, scheduled to take place Wednesday, 10th April 2024. Camnet TV visited the school to have a glimpse of what was happening at the entrance of Mahatma Gandhi Primary School. The gate was heavily guarded by alleged UPND members who determined who has access to the facility or not. Patriotic Front aspiring WDC nominee tells Camnet News that she was restricted from entering the school premises with her supporters on the basis that only UPND members were to file their nomination in the zonal wards elections.
Mahat Magans kubolo chita register vama nominees as a WDC. So the phenomenon party PF. Now party makadas pado batile sakungena when you just say PF vale safuna ukambia ati UPND. So we are a lot. Even bantu banga ba supporters banga babapisha nane nilipanja pano sinangeni paneni kamba bonse bama opposition kulibe kulichabe bamene mali mpawa bonse opposition kulibe kulibwa menangenam. They are just doing it on their own ba UPND.
And another PF official who opted to be anonymous had this to say.
And the atmosphere is not good. So everyone has been chased away from the opposition except themselves. We know each other. 90% of the people I've seen here, the UPND people, especially cadres. So no any other person has been allowed to go in. If you want to go in, they will ask you which candidate. If you can't mention the name of their candidate, they will chase you. So basically this is what just happened. Police have been reinforced. We have seen police vehicles here. So it's not a good thing. This is just a zone elections.
Meanwhile, aspiring Munali Member of Parliament Thomas Sipalo says it is unacceptable that ward elections are politicized by the UPND administration.
DC is not supposed to be politicized. Ndeba vimaleta maningi confusion vamene hivi. You know, me I'm being accused of sponsoring violence in Mtendere and in Munali constituency. And yet I'm not even sponsoring any violence. All I'm doing is just standing out for the truth. WDC is not just supposed to be for one political party. No, it's for the community. That central government money is not political party money. So, wajameni wazi watitinga imilile endani uko. If possible, wameni wakupishani wakopeni. We are going to expose them because when they go on radios and on television, they call reporters. They are saying otherwise. Watina mizira tifenifet pere kantuanuareta confusion. But I heard what happened in Kamanga. People were chased. They were not allowed to vote. It's not supposed to be like that.
He says ward elections are meant to ensure that people pick representatives that they deem worthy. Ward development committees are important for every constituency as they take part in the establishment of development plans, initiatives, and regulations according to the requirements of the ward. Cherish Sibote for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Those are some of the two stories that we played back to back. One on mealie meal issue and people queuing up in terms of accessing the cheaper mealie meal via the Zambia National Service, that is ZNS mealie meal, as well as I think Kalonga, which have been making rounds. And the situation is similar to that of what we saw over the weekend as well in Kanyama. And it just calls for one thing, to ensure that accessibility is actually improved, to ensure that people also are able to access this commodity at a time when it is very important. And one of the story also that we got to look at was that some Patriotic Front aspiring ward development committee members have alleged that the zone elections held at Mahatma Gandhi School in Lusaka's Mtendere Township were marred by violence. I think these were some of the stories, and we did also get some of the report from our colleague Cherry Sibote, who did make mention or who was on the ground to ensure that they give us this report. And these are some of the concerns that have been coming out from the residents out there. And are you too one of those that has actually been affected or was part of such a happening? And you can definitely give us a response, as well as get interacted with us, even as we get to prepare and to having our interview with the ZESCO personnel that are going to be in the studio joining us at exactly 8 and getting that conversation started up in terms of issues relating to load shedding. And let's get to look at one of the stories also that you might have missed in the bulletin yesterday. Was an interesting story where police in Lusaka have accidentally shot two victims, one juvenile, male aged 17, a grade 12 pupil at Chivolia Secondary School in Lusaka, and Miss Treska Dantu, age 24, of Chipata compound in Lusaka. Police spokesperson Ray Hamonga says the suspected police officers were pursuing alleged criminals in 2 motor vehicles identified as a Toyota Mark X and a Toyota IST, both without captured registration number. He says the incident occurred around 14 hours in Lusaka Emersdale area along Malambo Road. And another interesting story is also that of 22 Chinese nationals. Among them, 60 individuals have been arrested by the Drug Enforcement Commission in collaboration with the law enforcers for fraudulent activities. DEC Director General Nelson Banda says that the arrested suspects have been apprehended for alleged internet fraud syndicate. And one of the other story also that we get to look at was that of former President Edgar Lungu having charged that the legal proceedings against individuals linked to him and the Patriotic Front will soon be resolved. He said this shortly after escorting his wife at the Lusaka Magistrate Court as of yesterday. We get to look at those stories, and we'll be back on the other side as we get to dive into the interview.
The Zambia Police Service is deeply concerned to report on a shooting incident that occurred today, the 9th of April 2024, at approximately 14 hours along Malambo Road in Emersdale of Lusaka. The report was received at 14:30 from Mr. David Changwe, age 54, residing at plot number 13741 Chalala area of Lusaka, who acted as a good Samaritan and reported on behalf of the 2 victims of the shooting. The victims are identified as a male juvenile, age 17, a grade 12 pupil at Chibolia Secondary School in Lusaka, and Ms. Trith Kandatu, age 24, of Chipata compound in Lusaka. According to the report, the victims were accidentally shot at by suspected police officers who were pursuing alleged criminals in 2 motor vehicles identified as a Toyota Mark X and a Toyota IST, both without captured number plates. The suspected police officers were pursuing another vehicle, a Toyota Progress with registration number BAF 5711, black in color. The juveniles sustained a gunshot wound on the right leg, while Ms. Kandatu sustained a wound on the left leg from stray bullets. Mr. Changwe, who encountered the victims, rendered assistance by transporting them to Lusaka Central Police Station. Medical forms were issued and the victims were immediately rushed to Investigating Hospital for medical treatment by police. Their conditions are currently reported to be stable. The scene was visited and an inquiry file has been opened to facilitate further investigations into the circumstances surrounding this unfortunate incident. We wish to assure the public that every effort will be made to establish the facts. Relatives of the victims have been informed about the incident and the necessary support is being provided to them during this challenging time. Anyone with information regarding this incident is asked to come forward and assist the police in our investigations.
In the fight against cybercrime, on Tuesday, the Drug Enforcement Commission (DEC), in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies, conducted a raid on Golden Top Support Services in Roma, Lusaka. This operation unveiled a sophisticated internet fraud syndicate. Among the seized items were SIM boxing machines utilized for fraudulent activities, along with over 13,000 SIM cards, both domestic and international, indicating the extensive scale of the operation. Shockingly, the syndicate exploited Zambian youths, primarily school leavers, by falsely offering them call center work and engaging them in deceptive conversations across various platforms. Further, investigations by enforcers have revealed international connections to countries like Singapore, Peru, and the United Arab Emirates UAE. A total of 77 suspects, including 23 foreign nationals, mainly Chinese nationals, and 1 Cameroonian, have been apprehended, some found residing without proper documentation.
Cards, 7,778 MTN SIM cards, 4,016 Airtel SIM cards, including 11 SIM boxes. The organization behind the scheme employed young Zambian individuals, mostly school leavers, under the guise of call center agents. These individuals engaged in deceptive conversations with unsuspecting mobile users across platforms like WhatsApp, Telegram, and chat rooms. The operation's scope extended beyond Zambia, with evidence of communication with individuals in countries such as Singapore, Peru, and the United Arab Emirates. In total, 77 suspects were apprehended, including 23 foreign nationals, who include some Chinese and one Cameroonian. I must mention that these are actually in custody, but with the Zambians, we allowed them bond so that they can help us with investigations, but we also charged them. Seized items include 93 desktop computers, which you have seen here, 42 new and boxed computers, 1 laptop, a satellite gadget, and other ICT-related equipment. This explains the reason why we brought on board Zicta. As you can see, these are very sophisticated machines. Some of them might be beyond our scope as law enforcement. So we brought the experts on site, and they are helping us decipher certain things which might help us in the court process later. Furthermore, 2 firearms. You can see this is a...
Seized items also included computers, firearms, and motor vehicles linked to the syndicate. The Drug Enforcement Commission emphasizes the alarming increase in internet fraud cases and pledges to remain vigilant in combating cybercrime to safeguard the interests of the Zambian populace.
On your behalf, we have seen other agencies I can't mention that have been hit by these cyber criminals. So I want to assure the people of Zambia that we are out to get these criminals, and we are working in collaboration with all the experts in Zambia. What is important to note again is that we shall not at all relent, and there will be no sacred cows. We have some other areas we are chasing right now involving some Zambians. Others are already in court. Another scam that we uncovered, I think we announced it some time back, we can't talk about it now. They are already in court because of scamming people. You have heard of people that have gone to certain pension houses and withdrawn pension money for somebody. You go there to go for your money, you find somebody withdraw your money, has taken your identity, what we call identity theft. So we are out to do this. Please, the people of Zambia, report to us every time you are scammed. Come and tell us, because that will be the starting point. If you don't report to us, you continue being scammed. That's very important. I thought I'd take advantage, ladies and gentlemen, to inform you too that, first of all, this scam, as you can imagine, other service providers have lost money. MTN definitely has lost money. If your cards are being made this way, it means you're losing money. Airtel, they've lost money. There's no doubt about it. And our job is to protect these companies that are doing so much for this country. Now, another thing I thought I'd take advantage of is that in the operations that we've been carrying out in the couple of months, we have seized and forfeited to the state right now an average of about 836 million kwacha.
Chanda Mwango for Camnet News in Lusaka.
The Lusaka Magistrate Court was this morning packed as Opposition Patriotic Front faithful listened in awe to the testimony of a 53-year-old herbalist, Elizabeth Piri. The state witness testified before Lusaka Magistrate Muyuwana Simvula that she was given 1.5 million kwacha by Chief Muguni, and she decided to use the money to purchase a house in Lusaka, a canter, and 2 other vehicles. The herbalist explained that Chief Muguni gifted her the money because he is her grandfather, contrary to allegations that she got former First Lady Esther Lungu's money. This is a matter in which Ms. Piri is the complainant against the former First Lady for theft, and submits that the canter, 2 vehicles, and the title deed of property were grabbed from her by Mrs. Lungu. She explains that her property was grabbed from her at gunpoint by 2 men who she later came to know as policemen, who she alleges were sent by the accused. She cites the 2 policemen who are jointly charged with Mrs. Lungu, her niece, Catherine Banda, and Kapambwe Lungu, facing 3 counts of theft of motor vehicle and theft of a title deed. The 53-year-old herbalist also denied ever collecting $400,000 from the First Lady's niece, Catherine Banda. She submitted that Catherine Banda only paid 4,000 kwacha for marriage fortunes and to be helped to conceive. But when asked by defense lawyer Charles Changano whether the herbalist has been paying taxes from the business transactions, the herbalist turned to the Bible and quoted Malachi 3 verse 8 and concluded by saying she receives orders from God. In this matter, the former First Lady Esther Lungu, Catherine Banda, Kapambwe Lungu, and 2 policemen, Lee Chisulu and James Piri, pleaded not guilty to the charges of theft. Allegations are that between August 9, 2021 and September 30, 2022, the five allegedly stole a Mitsubishi Canter worth 320,000 kwacha belonging to Ms. Piri. It is also alleged that the accused stole a Toyota Alex worth 110,000 kwacha belonging to Fohana Patel. The former First Lady and others are also accused of stealing a certificate of title relating to a property in Liwala worth 1,050,000 kwacha belonging to Ms. Piri. The matter has since been adjourned to 14, 28th and 29th May 2024 for continuation of cross-examination. While leaving the court premises, former President Edgar Lungu hinted that all those facing court cases for associating with the Patriotic Front, their cases will soon come to pass.
The best time to know who's on your side is time like now. So we thank you for coming through and being with us. This is one of those days which we're going through. And I know a lot of you are going through similar problems. By having been here, some of you by having been our associates, and some of you by having been very close. But this is the price we pay. It will come to pass. And I know that
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka. A sad story there, if you ask me, in terms of the boy that was shot, grade 12, accidentally shot by the police. Definitely, that makes a sad reading, and one is left to wonder and ask questions in terms of what really do we need to be done, what really has to be done to ensure that we see such issues also coming to an end, because we've had these cases for some time. For instance, the case in mind, or the case in point, would be that of Frank Mugala, who was allegedly killed accidentally as well, and we saw government compensating the family. But also yesterday it was a different story altogether. And what happens if this Tres Kadantu was the breadwinner of the family, and she was allegedly shot accidentally by the police? And we do send our condolences to the families that are affected by this, and definitely hope that things also get better going forward. And one of the story that we did also get to look at was that of a syndicate, Mascamas, Airtel Money, send money, these are stories that have actually been surrounded, and we're glad that our enforcement agencies such as the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, was on hand together with the Zambia Police to ensure that they look at this syndicate and also do a raid where about 836 million kwacha has actually even been seized and forfeited to the state. This makes a good reading, but however, one may also be left to ask a question. As a people, are we really patriotic? Because 60 individuals, these were Zambians, they can't be employed and be doing things that they don't know. So how do you rob your own country? I mean, these Chinese, to some extent, also, they employed these people, and I think there was also a job description that was given to them. But how do you tend to such issues? But you too can also give us your contributions in terms of what you think about these stories in terms of Airtel money scammers as well as mobile money scammers, just to qualify the terms really, because these scams have actually come at different times. We've had messages here and then. Others were even sending messages that debt restructuring and knife from assault to Menimpia, Shani na Shani. But anyway, kudos to DEC. And now let's get to look at a story where amidst growing concerns on the impact of climate change in rural communities, school-going children in Lundazi district of Eastern Province are calling for concerted efforts to address the effects of climate change on children in the area. As climate change continues to wreak havoc worldwide, its impact on vulnerable populations, particularly children in rural areas, is becoming increasingly evident. The combination of climate change and a severe drought is posing significant challenges for children's well-being and future prospects. Lundazi district in Eastern Province has not been spared from the effects of climate change. We spoke to school-going children in rural Zambia to hear first-hand information on how climate change has affected their lives.
As a school-going child, there are a lot of problems that I'm facing in terms of drought. because you might find that in the morning you have not eaten breakfast and you cannot go to school and then with an empty stomach. So it is, I would just like to urge the government to say that if they can implement farmers to make sure that we have food in our country and that there is food security, we can really appreciate.
These poignant accounts highlight the urgent need for action to mitigate the effects of climate change on children in rural areas. In response to these challenges, political leaders are proposing initiatives to address the root causes of climate change and its impact on communities.
I'm appealing to the New Dawn government to declare a day. Parliamentarians, please, can you discuss this? What we have a day. Even each and every member of parliament should plant a tree and we should see it grow. Not just rhetoric, let's be real. Climate change has come and it is real and it has come to stay, and if we don't fight it, it will fight us. And we have seen the consequences and the results.
Such initiatives aim to not only mitigate the effects of climate change but also empower communities to take proactive steps towards environmental sustainability. Media Network on Child Rights and Development Executive Director Henry Kabwe sheds light on the specific challenges faced by rural children in the context of climate change during a feature on Chikara Community Radio Station in Londazi District, Eastern Province. Mr. Kabwe, alongside the Ministry of Agriculture, observed that children were at increased risk of malnutrition, disease, and disrupted education due to climate-related disasters.
And if you look at the household, if there is hunger, the temptation to marry off a girl is very high. The temptation to send a girl to go and do sex work is very high. The temptation to send a boy to go and do, to work in tobacco farms or cotton farms is very high. So it really creates social disorder, because all are the children that should have been educated to come and lead us, but they are now being deprived of an opportunity to get educated so that they come and become competent leaders that can contribute to our development.
Their insights underscore the urgent need for comprehensive strategies to safeguard the well-being of vulnerable children in the face of climate change. Despite the challenges posed by the drought crisis, Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema reassures citizens of government's commitment to addressing the issues affecting children in the country.
Welfare of children is integral to any society. Weren't we all children at some stage? Who we are today is largely dependent on how we were looked after. That's a fact. So looked after even at the point of pregnancy and through the 9 months, and then under 5 care. All of those issues, schooling, very important. I say to many people without any hesitation that without school, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm seated here. I know where I would have been by now and what I would have been doing.
These assurances offer hope in the face of adversity, emphasizing the importance of collective action and political leadership in safeguarding the well-being of children in Zambia and beyond. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lundazi.
Zambia, are you ready? Zambia Youth Conference 2024 is here with Archbishop Dr. Bernard and Mrs. Bibiana Nwaka under the theme Raising the Next Generation of Priests and Kings. From the 17th to the 21st of April 2024, speakers Apostle Dr. Francis Pius, Bishop Robinson Fondong, and others. And ministering in music, Ephraim, Son of Africa. Time, from the 17th to the 19th of April from 4 p.m. On the 20th of April from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. On the 21st of April from 9 a.m. at Living Water Global Church in Kitwe, Zambia, near Usakile roundabout behind Puma Pumping Station. Come and become a history maker.
Following persistent outcries from the public of the uninterrupted 8-hour load-shedding schedule, ZESCO Limited has, effective today, 1st March 2024, commenced a 2-phase load-shedding schedule, reducing the daily power outage to 4 hours a day. This development which seemingly provides relief to small businesses whose operations are reliant on electricity, has been received with mixed response, with some expressing relief while others remain dissatisfied. In an interview with Camnet News, Patrick Nyangulu, a popcorn trader, is one of the individuals who are delighted with the newly implemented schedule, emphasizing its positive impact on his business. Maggie Chilufya, a tailor, has equally commended government for responding to their plight in due course.
So, I mean, after it is 4 hours, I think he and Kalako, but it's a desire to far. Yakaenda na customers wakabwera sibazambo shota maniki kuti ati baenda vaenderera chifika kubema light. I'm sure it's that one.
Nisonzela ku set market malaiti munga yemene mwakambati kazienda 4 hours yankalako bwino at least kuchila 8 hours. Sometimes kwina nguma ngalati malaiti yaenda kuseni kufikira ku 22 hours ndiye pea bwana chibantu sibaza sebenza bajame bashita masaluni bashita chani, but yemwe kamba 4 hours iliko better cause bazankala kona ka opportunity ko sebenza ko time bazi that time yaso nchimana kita kushabwanja ya bwela.
However, Roy Zimba, a ward of Kanyama compound in Lusaka, has bemoaned the schedule, citing the threat it poses to the productivity of his business.
Iyo schedule waleta ko yanywa ifuta tuwana twikana kaido ya mawazi yakula enderamu yarasangwa ati twara esarika umwine tu nifwe muri amayuthi muri abakaramba tawakwetya mpia kushani basangira mu mpia umwine so idia ine badi wala ndira tyakura ya 8 hours ingaya echunguro yabwera maybe ngishita yabwedera mu 50 then at least batpera ku time uruchelo until kuma 18 hours airport sangwa kwa mpia tuwizinga right turepange mpando baya bakaramba bapusana baresho keroko so tureromba kubuteko bawe shefe idia ine tawazi haya ingabushtu yabwera uruchero twabomba
seju idia ine aliko ya 8 hours ilifebwe kuchiroko ati yari ya 3 times in a day, which means ama hours ifufwe babombera kuno ma hours yakubomba yarache so idia ine fe ya efo yari akari alifebwe.
Meanwhile, energy expert engineer Boniface Zulu says the newly implemented schedule provides a relief to the economy as it will boost productivity of small medium enterprises, SMEs.
Actually, a very good initiative because it alleviates the pain that ordinary Zambians were faced with of the 8 hours debt sharing, which of course came into conflict with their productivity, especially within the CBD. Places such as markets were also affected, which also affected productivity. So it's helped in terms of them profiting or getting something out of the day, because if they are scheduled 4 hours in the morning, they have the afternoon to recuperate and also ensure that they go on with their normal day-to-day activities.
Chanda Mwango for Camnet News in Lusaka.
Okay, thank you so much. We did play a series of stories just to ensure that we also prepare for the main interview this morning, just like we did indicate that we'll be joined by ZESCO spokesperson in Maombi Matongo, as well as the ZESCO marketing manager in Otis Matongo. Hopefully I've not misplaced the names, right?
Yeah, it's okay.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you?
And good morning to the viewers.
Very well, thank you. And let's get kick-started with one of the story. I think Mr. Matongo was here to, Mr. Maombi rather was here to actually look at one of the stories, some of the concerns that were coming in terms of issues relating to the new load shedding schedule, and as well as the hours that have been staggered. What do you make of this, and how is the new schedule? I know it's being reviewed weekly.
So maybe just a brief background that load shedding started officially on 11 March, necessitated by our reduced generation capacity because of low water levels. So it's in public domain, except for today that we received quite some heavy rains. Otherwise, in the last month, or last 2 months, we haven't had much rain, especially in this region of the country. So when we started load shedding, it was a matter of starting with 8 hours based on analysis that was done by the technical team. And then in 2 weeks, or within the second week, there was an outcry that 8 hours straight was too much, especially for residential clients, customers. But when you look at commercial customers, industrial customers, 8 hours for them without power and 16 hours of power works better for them because of the machinery that they have to run. So after listening and getting to review that schedule, the technical team decided to see and implement the staggered 4-hour load shedding. That is for residential customers only, not commercial customers. So that was implemented last week from the 1st of April. Some may have thought it was April Fool's Day, but that's when it started. And unexpectedly, we got to receive quite some challenges in terms of turning back power on. Some of them, it was as a result of some technical faults that were not expected and had to be dealt with there and then. And then for some, it was an issue of, you know, when power goes or power is about to go, say here if you have 10 lights and then power is about to go, you only had 2 lights on or 2 things working, then you said, oh, power is going in an hour, let's turn everything on and up our production, and then you unnecessarily create more demand, creating an instability on the grid. And then now it creates quite some disturbance on the grid, because when the load is too much, what the system does is it will either trip to protect itself, and then in the end protect the customers as well. So now, also vandalism played a part. We have instances where the transformer is gone, power is turned back on, only to find that the power is not reaching that area, and then they start calling that we have no power because there's no transformer or the service cables are gone. So now, with the 4 hours, it has worked for some, it has not worked for some. Especially for small businesses who find themselves in residential areas. You see that? A number of small businesses have found themselves in residential areas, which we are load shedding as of now in Lusaka. So this 4-hour thing is just for Lusaka. It's not for other parts of the country. So when we load shed those small areas, like the way some of the people you got there were complaining that these outages, they were disturbing in terms of the hour thing. So you find that they get affected because they are on a line where we are to load shed residential customers. And then for commercial customers, much of the load shedding is done in the night, from 16 going up to about 06. So those areas where we recognize that this is a commercial area, the load shedding schedule is very different from where it is a purely residential area. So now, that was now the backlash that came that, okay, now ZESCO, I think, has increased the number of load shedding hours. It wasn't our intention, it's not our intention for now. We are still sticking to the 8 hours, but because of the unexpected challenges, that's where now we found ourselves exceeding by an hour or two, an hour, 30 minutes or so, and then cumulatively at the end of the day, you find that maybe some areas are being load shed 9 hours, 10 hours, and things like that. So this week, the morning schedule has not changed much, but the afternoon schedule has changed. So we've brought it down by about 4 hours. So for those that are, I'm in Group C, so I can easily speak of Group C. In Group C, power goes at 6 the first time, and it comes back at around 10. And then afternoon this week is going at 14, and then back at 18. Last week it was 18 to 22. So now, these are the hours where people now are trying as much as possible to use more of electricity. The fact of the matter that we have at the moment is that we have reduced generation capacity. So meaning we have reduced power in the country, and we need to economize as much as possible. So some people, I think the marketing manager will even address it. Some people will say, why is ZESCO discouraging people from using electricity? Why is ZESCO discouraging people from using their own product? The fact of the matter, we don't have much electricity as at now. So we need to use this that we have to run us up to the end of the year. So we'll see, we are doing internal analysis, external consultations as well, to see if we proceed with this schedule next week going forward. Because this load shedding is not for a month or two. It is lasting us up to at least December. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we also saw a survey. I think that is authentic, right? That you're conducting a survey in terms of relation to the load shedding and what the perspective from people should be in terms of what they think they should be awarded, load shedded rather, in terms of the hours and the period. The marketing manager, I think, may take this.
That is correct. We are conducting a number of surveys on different platforms. And the idea really is to gather majority preferences in terms of how do the customers want to be load shared. Do they want a staggered 4 hours? Do they want the 8 hours once off straight? So yes, that survey is ongoing. We have one running on Facebook, I think closing today. We encourage our customers to participate. We want to make a decision that, you know, speaks to what the majority want, be it commercial, residential, industrial customers. We are also running this survey on a Google survey. There are links being shared on WhatsApp, different groups. So yes, indeed, we are running these surveys to inform, I think, the next long-term decision in terms of how we load shed.
From the marketing perspective, one might be asking out there to say, look, I pay for these ZESCO units, and then once power is restored in my area, I'm told to say, if you're not using the other room, the bulb should be off. Why should I be able to do that?
Yes, you pay for these units, but we are saying we are in a period of time when we must conserve power. You know, we are hit with this natural disaster. We had El Nino. We haven't had enough rains this year. I can give you a background of, you know, you have Kariba Dam, for instance, that has capacity of about over 40 billion billion liters of water storage. But then it's been reducing year by year. In last year, I think we had an allocation of about 16 billion cubic meters of water. This year, you're at 8 billion cubic meters of water. The Kariba complex alone has installed capacity of about 1,080 megawatts of generation. We are generating below 400 megawatts of electricity. So then what do? We say, look, yes, you pay for this power, but how do we ration? How do we use this power to see us up to the end of the year, up to December? One, we must conserve power. Let's use it efficiently. Why do you leave the lights on when you're not in the room? Why should you leave your geysers on the whole month? You know, so these are some of the small but yet impactful measures that we are asking our customers to implement. You have, in fact, it also saves money on part of the customers. You know, you have incandescent bulbs that are actually banned by law in Zambia.
Yes.
100 watts rated bulb.
Yes, those filament bulbs.
Yeah, so assume you leave that bulb for the year on. That bulb will cost you about 350 kwacha, one bulb. Okay? How many bulbs do we, on average, use in a home in Zambia? Let's say 10 and above. So we're saying on bulbs alone, you're spending 3,500 kwacha. If you replace those bulbs with LED bulbs, 9 watts to 13 bulbs, and leave it on, assuming you leave it on for the whole year, that bulb will cost you 45 kwacha. So 10 bulbs will cost you 450. So you're saving at 3,000 on bulbs alone. So why not go the efficient route? You're helping ZESCO to share power equitably. You're also helping your pocket. You're paying less on electricity. So those are some of the few measures.
Yeah, I know today it's a rainy day, and hopefully also it is raining in Kariba, because it's going to be a double header, because everybody is excited about the Shipolopolo qualifying to the Paris Games, as well as it's raining today. Yeah. So now one might be asked to say, what are the water levels at Kariba Dam? Does it favor the customers out there?
So like I indicated, the inflow of water, different complexes of generating stations are monitored daily. It's a good thing it's raining. We hope that these water levels improve, and of course if they do improve, ZESCO will communicate and indicate a reduction in the hours of load shedding. Okay, but as things stand, it's not a one-day rains, by the way, that change the picture. we need enough water to flow into these dams. Okay, so we gave a picture of where we are. I think in February, we are sitting at 8 billion cubic meters of water, which doesn't allow us to generate so much or generate at full capacity till end of year. So we have installed capacity of about 3,600, okay, against a national peak demand of 2,300. But then we're only generating 1,600. And we are doing so that we spread the risk, so that we manage to get up December when we project that the next rainfall will be back with us. And so we can maybe go back and generate at full capacity. But maybe just to jump the gun, I know the next question would be, what are we doing away from load shedding? There are so many measures that ZESCO is working on. You know, we have a number of solar projects that we hope by, in fact, let me not use the word hope, it's projected that beginning November up to the new year 2025, a number of these projects will come on the grid, and these are solar projects. We have one that was just, the groundbreaking was in Cabo, Chisamba. It's about 200 megawatts. This is a project under one of ZESCO subsidiaries. So we hope that by December, beginning of the year, the first 100 megawatts comes on the grid. We have Shangombo, 2 megawatts, where the entire Shangombo is being powered by diesel. We have Serenge, 50 megawatts. I think this is by Ultra Green. Yes. Equally, this is coming on the grid end of year, beginning of 2025. So there are short and medium to long-term measures. So this load shedding is not permanent. It's only to help us get. You don't want the country to be in a blackout because you want to generate at full capacity, supply power to each and every home and business, but then run out of the resource, which is water, to generate power mid-year. You don't want to do that. That's careless.
Let me get back to Mr. Mombi right there. I know last week, or should have been the other week, we saw an agreement between ZESCO and a company based in Mozambique in terms of importation of power or power agreement. What is this agreement all about, and what does it mean, especially when we're at such a situation? Does it entail that also those customers that are being load shedded are going to have a good or positive outlook from it?
They actually already have. The agreement with the EDM, the state utility company of Mozambique, started actually in July, August last year, because there was already a projection that we may not have enough rainfall this season, 2023-2024. So from last year, we were importing 50 megawatts off-peak, and then there have been some discussions to increase from 50 megawatts firm power to 90 megawatts. So that is part of the mitigation measures that we are already put in place to say when we start load shedding, if our colleagues in Mozambique agree to give us extra megawatts, we have up to about, I think, 200 that we can import from Mozambique. But as of now, the agreement, the one we signed on Thursday last week, was an amendment to the 50 to increase the 50 to 90 megawatts. But that was already calculated on the current load shedding so that we do manage with the 8 hours up to the end of the year. And that supply of power also is extended. It was supposed to expire this year, but it will expire next year, June 30th. So even the tenure of the agreement has been extended for supply of 90 megawatts up to June 30th. We do hope that in between we will be able to also import more power off-peak. Off-peak, it means it's at a cheaper rate, because even when you are calling phones, there are times when you peak hours, or you say I'll call you per off-peak. If you remember those days of my promotions where you say 22 to 0 to 5, those with girlfriends, boyfriends would call at that time because it was cheaper to call at that time. That's the same concept of importing power at that time for local use. So that is actually cushioning the deficit that we already have here in Zambia. And like the managing director did say, the additional 40 megawatts is being prioritized towards the economic drivers of the country, the mines, agricultural sector, and also the social services like hospitals, so that the country, the economy continues to run.
In case you're joining us this morning, we're having a conversation centered on power balance, outlook, as well as mitigation measures amidst the load shedding that the country is experiencing. And in studio, I'm joined by ZESCO spokesperson in Matongo Maombi, as well as the marketing manager, Otis Matongo, just to help us understand all these issues and concerns that have been coming your way as residents or as customers in terms of the availability of electricity. Now, Mr. Maombi, let's get also, there's been this assertion over time that despite us being load shedded or having load shedding in the country, the power utility is still exporting power to the other countries. How true is this assertion or allegation?
We are indeed exporting power. This exportation of power has been ongoing for years, like you rightly said. We support each other in the Ubuntu way in Southern Africa, under the Southern African Power Pool, where our neighboring countries are in worse situations than we are, and even as bad as we are not as worse as they are. If you look at, we do export to Namibia, we do export to DRC, where they critically also need electricity. Now, with the start of load shedding, one of the measures that was done was to reduce the amount of power that we are exporting to them, so that they remain with the critical power that they need in terms of lifeline, that power which is needed to also run critical installations in their localities, so that they also get to survive. Because if our neighbors get into trouble, there will be the refugees that will be coming into Zambia. So we share the little that we have without killing ourselves completely. At the moment, the balance of equation is quite good, and we keep on reviewing. If the matters get to the west, then we also adjust accordingly. So those exports are there, and they will continue for the foreseeable time. But we also keep reviewing them. If, say, we completely run out of power, it means there's nothing more that we can export. But we believe in supporting our neighbors, because they also support us when in times of need. Like Mozambique, they've supported us when we were in time of need, and they've continued also supporting us. That doesn't mean that they don't have issues in their country in terms of energy.
Okay.
And also just to add on, I think the MD emphasized on this point. Really, it's a relationship of interdependence. The power that's being exported is not even power worth really discussing. It's a lifeline power. You're giving this power to this country, to these countries. They need it for their hospitals. They need it for these critical installations. You don't want your neighbors to die, yet you can share the little that you can. Let's give an example of Chamalundazi. Since independence, we have depended on Malawi. There was no grid there. It's just recent that the grid was commissioned, that the Chamalundazi is now powered purely by ZESCO. So we have depended on Malawi. The little they had, they would share. There would be load shedding in Malawi, but they still found the little that they could to share with Zambia in that region. So really, it's not power that is disadvantaging the citizens. It's power that's exported, and normally at times when the citizens don't need it. It's off-peak export. By off-peak, we mean the times that you and I are sleeping. So you export that power to Malawi, just to power their hospitals. You export that power to Namibia to power their hospitals. So that's a relationship that's here. That's export we are talking about. We're not talking about exporting power at peak hour, say between 6 and 18. No. We're talking about exporting power during off-peak times.
Could there be a time that we can maybe project to say at this particular year or this particular time the country is going to be electricity sufficient, and issues of load shedding and these other issues relating, we don't have enough water at Kariba for us to have enough megawatts being generated, going to come to an end from the point of ZESCO, and ensuring that we look at other alternatives aside from solar?
So I'll tell you that in terms of installed generation capacity, hydro, Zambia sits in a very comfortable place. We just told you we are we have installed capacity of about 3,600 against a peak demand, national demand of 2,300. So without this El Nino, without this climate change that hit us, Zambia has enough power, enough to even, export so much and earn revenue for the country. But we are saying, yes, this has hit us, and we are not just seated. We are not just asking our customers to cut on the use of power and all these things. There are projects signed, the groundbreaking ceremonies have happened, and they are underway. We can project to you that by end of this year to maybe the first quarter of next year, about 500 megawatts of power from solar are coming onto the grid, further increasing our generation capacity. Now, when you have solar, you can bank the water during the day and utilize solar. In the evening, you go back to the water resource and generate. So we are indeed, I think, headed towards a period when this language of load shedding, load management will not be with us.
Are there also maybe intentions to go on the northern circuit of ensuring that also we have some substations or stations that are able to power up the country in that region? For instance, we've had these suggestions coming in that we've seen that the rainfall pattern has shifted to the northern region. Is also the company considering maybe setting up one of the power stations there?
Studies are being conducted. I do not have the exact numbers. I think the technical people will tell you that on Luapula River there's something being worked with our neighbor again, because that's a shared resource with Congo. So in the near future we may have a good number of megawatts being generated from there. But in terms of solar, we have Kalungwishi, we have a 50 ultra green 50 megawatt solar in Serenge. So there's a number of solar projects dotted around the northern block. And like I said, these are coming on the grid, let's say to be safe, in the next 24 months. But they will come on the grid. Some of them will come on the grid even way before the 24 months.
And also, one of the drives of the corporate leadership team for ZESCO is to see that dependence on hydropower is reduced to about 50%. Because right now we're standing at 87%. Ordinarily, Zambia has a lot of water, ordinarily, but we are not in ordinary times anymore. So we find ourselves having at 87% dependence on electricity. So meaning any flicker in the weather, we get affected so much. So with the current drive that we have with the corporate leadership team, is to see that in the next couple of years, these projects are not 1 month or 2 months that they can be online. So in the next couple of years, to see to it that we continue with the hydro, but we reduce the dependence on hydro to about 50%, so that the other 50% can be for the alternative sources of energy. We are talking of solar, that we've signed quite a number of power purchase agreements. Like the marketing manager said, a couple of them should be online by the first quarter of 2024. So once that drive is there, then we'll have a good balance in terms of dependency. When we have poor sunshine, then the hydro kicks in. When we have very good sunshine, then the solar and the other alternative sources of energy. So that also goes to our customers. I think it's something that the marketing manager will address. How are they also moving in terms of efficiency in using electricity at their homes? He did mention that sometimes people find it as a pride that they're able to buy electricity and turn everything on in the house. When they are cooking, it's like a small pan, that kind of pan for eggs. They use a very big plate, cooker plate, those solid plates. And then because they paid, rightly they paid, but is the power enough, or is it necessary to abuse that money? Those who drive, you put full tank, but are you going to press the pedal unnecessarily down to drain your fuel because you are able to buy more fuel, or you step on it nicely so that you have as much fuel for a longer period of time? So that's the same kind of thing that we are pushing. Say, as much as we also move to renewable kind of energy, let our customers also adapt and adopt energy efficient practices. He gave a simple example of the ordinary bulbs that we used to have, the 100-watt bulbs and the likes. Those bulbs are very hot and they consume a lot of power. But with the LED bulbs that we have now, and I think government and law enforcement on that end, they should also stiffen the law, because it's been banned for years, but we still see those bulbs around where they are consuming power, producing energy unnecessarily. So if we move together, we'll find ourselves in a situation where we have enough power to do what we want when we need to do what we need to do.
And also, sorry, just to add on, I think ZESCO is really has been innovative of late. So I know that there's a scheme that the technical team is working on that carries along the citizens, small scale, large scale, where, you know, if you're capable of putting up 100 kilowatts solar plant for your home consumption or business consumption, and you find that out of that 100 or 500 kilowatts of power you've set up, you don't need all of it. You can actually sell excess. ZESCO is willing to say, look, set up those plants, come and talk to us as citizens. We'll buy that power off you that you're not using and redistribute it. You know, so citizens are welcome to come and talk to ZESCO. I know this that this is still under discussion. I don't see why ERB will block this. So yeah, citizens are welcome to come on board. All these are measures meant to ensure that we are energy sufficient in the next few months.
Even as we come to the dying minute of this breakfast show, let's get to also address one of the issues that has been raised in terms of the intention to increase electricity tariffs. What are these tariffs in a layman's language, and what does it mean when you get to increase, especially if you're an ordinary customer coming from Kwakanyama, Chawama, or Mtendere?
So the tariff increment is not a 2024 issue. The application was done in 2022, and then in 2023 it was approved. So the proposal from ZESCO was looking at increasing tariffs to make the tariffs commercially viable. It's like you are in a broadcasting business, and then as an example, to produce a program, it costs you, say, 1,000 kwacha per hour to produce a program. That is to pay the electricity bill, to factor in your labor costs, the equipment, and everything else. It costs you 1,000 kwacha. But then you get to charge me, who wants to come and bring a program on your station, at 900 kwacha. It means who is offsetting that, the 100 kwacha? So something somewhere is paying for the 100 kwacha. So the tariffs that we have in Zambia currently are not very commercially viable. So to attract business sense within ZESCO and for others that would want to invest in the energy sector, there was a proposal that we do have a gradual tariff increment, which is the 5-year multi-tariff plan, where ERB, as the regulator, approved a gradual increment of tariffs from 2023, the initial one running up to, I think, 2027, 2028. Then every year, the ERB will review based on the key performance indicators that would have set for ZESCO. So if we meet those key performance indicators or we don't meet, the ERB has 3 choices: to increase the tariff, to reduce the tariff, or to maintain the tariff. But that is a decision that is made by the ERB based on our performance. The idea is that when we reach, when we complete the multi-year tariff plan, and then the tariffs become commercially viable, it means even you as Camnet, who was charging 900, maybe you now start charging 1,150. So it means you have a markup of 150, and then you are able to buy extra cameras, or you are able to open other bureaus in other districts, so that you are able to cover news on the go in the districts, as opposed to just relying on the people that you have. So that is something that has been going on since 2022-2023, and this year they are yet to give us the final on the 3 options that are on the table: if they are going to increase, if they are going to maintain the price, or they are going to reduce the price. So that is up to the ERB to determine based on our performance.
Before I shift to Mr. Matongo, you did mention of the staggered load shedding that is happening, and we've seen that some of the SMEs that are maybe in residential areas being affected. For instance, companies that are also in residential areas are being affected. Is there a way that the utility is looking at ensuring to ensure that they identify these companies and make sure that they're part and parcel of some of the alternatives, or I would basically term them benefits that are coming in to such companies?
So what actually we've started doing, I'll give an example which happened just last week. Minwood Ibex was connected to a line that goes to a critical installation, a medical facility where they store medical supplies. That are among the things that are exempted from load shedding, because once we turn off power for such an installation, it means the medicines will go bad. People may die, you see that. So a place like Minwood Ibex, a residential area, Minwood Ibex, connected to a critical load. So now we managed to isolate the critical load from Minwood Ibex. So Minwood Ibex, as one example, they've now joined, I think, Group E in terms of load shedding. So now the challenge is the national grid is not designed for load shedding. It's designed to just supply power, because we always believe that we'll have enough power to supply. Now we find that there are those commercial entities that are on the residential lines. Where it is possible to isolate those, we are in the process of isolating. But much of them, they are quite complicated and they require a lot of cost to isolate those lines. So the small businesses that find themselves in residential area, they get to suffer the impact of load shedding in the residential area. Same as those residential people that are in commercial areas, they get to suffer the impact of load shedding based on the commercial areas. So we've had complaints from people that are staying somewhere in the industrial area that we are being load shed 8 hours straight as of now. But then when you find out where they are, you find that, oh, you are on a commercial grid. So that means you are getting the 8 hours straight. So what we are looking at now is where possible, we isolate the lines, because we need as much residential areas and places to be load shed so that we conserve the little power that we have. Because the Zambezi River Authority, in their daily updates, we check every day, and every day, the last 2 weeks or so, it has been, the water levels are decreasing. The water levels are not increasing, they are decreasing. Because we still have to generate power. So when we generate power, the water goes. So that's one of the reasons why the water levels are decreasing. Secondly, because there are no inflows, because there's no rain.
You talked of the staggered load shedding only being experienced in Lusaka. Are there any other plans in terms of ensuring that provinces such as Copperbelt and others also maybe have the same?
With what has been experienced in Lusaka, I doubt very much that it will be extended to other parts of the country.
Why?
Because what has been experienced in Lusaka is that we've had unexpected challenges where it was leading to extended periods of outages, which is not good for the customers, because it becomes difficult for the customers to plan. So now, if Lusaka has that experience, we are looking at now, if we take it nationally, there might be greater complications. So that is something that we are studying and looking at. But on the flip side is that Lusaka has a greater demand for electricity. Maybe in the other areas, because the demand is not that high, maybe in the other areas it would work. So that is something that is being analyzed internally. I think by weekend, we should be able to know the way forward in terms of, because what we want now is to have something that will last the test of time, not where every week we change. So we've done the 8 hours, we've done the 4 hours. Now the job is to look at which one works best for the customers, and then which one also works best for ZESCO in terms of the technicality. And then we move forward with a schedule that will last for the rest of the load shedding period.
Let's get to Mr. Matombo as he gets to conclude with what are some of the measures that customers need to put up in terms of during this period, because they normally say to each situation it's more like a coin, it has got two sides.
Yeah, two sides, yeah. So before I answer that, I think I would like to emphasize that our customers take part in this survey the survey that is intended to gather information in terms of what do our customers want. Is it the 8 hours straight load shedding, or is it the 4 hours staggered load shedding? I think my colleague here has alluded to some of the challenges, but we don't want to make that decision on behalf of our customers. Can they then go to our website, which is www.zesco.co.zm? You will find a link that allows you to pick your preference. Is it 4 hours staggered twice a day? Is it 8 hours once of a day? You can also go to our Facebook page. The poll is still running. Please indicate your preference there, so that when we make a decision, it's okay, this is what we're going with up December. We do not make a decision that doesn't sit well with others. Okay. And then to answer your question, in terms of measures in a home, there are small measures, but they conserve power. So I think my colleague alluded to, when you cook, place a pot that is the size of a plate. It allows you to use power efficiently. Do not get a small pot and place it on a bigger plate because you want to cook fast. You are wasting the rest of the energy in the sides. Okay, when you want to boil water, don't boil water on the stove. The stove takes about 5 minutes, just heat the plate. Another 5 minutes to transfer that heat to the pot and heat the water. And maybe another 5 minutes to boil the water. 15 minutes you're waiting to get your heated water. If you boil that water in a kettle takes 2 to 3 minutes. Your water is heated, ready for use. And we are saying don't, leave your geysers on the whole week, the whole month, the entire year. By the way, there's I think I spoke about this in the beginning. You can get a solar panel now, and just an easy element, replace that electrical element and put a solar one, connect it to the panel on top of the roof. Your water is heated the entire time. It's not expensive. These panels range from I think 500 to 1,000 thereabout. When you do that, you've actually cut off costs from ZESCO. You're not paying those continuous bills to ZESCO.
Yeah,
so those are some of the few measures. If you're not using a light in the room, or you have left the room, turn the lights off.
Your conclusion, Mr. Maombi, in terms of also maybe issues that you might have to address on, even as you get to conclude, is that we've seen unscrupulous people that do take advantage of the load shedding hours when the particular area has been load shedded. They tend now into this, affecting these cables that are connecting to their houses. I think one of the cases that we had and was reported about here was that in Karikiliki about 30 houses were affected.
Mm-hmm. So vandalism actually is one of the funny things that is affecting the corporation, and we are happy that we are working well with the Zambia police and the community at large. Because what happens now where there is a vandalism incident, our security team, the ZESCO security, they ensure that they sensitize the community that is affected to understand the effects of vandalism. And then now, the judiciary also is, we're happy that in the first quarter already, we've recorded 41 convictions. That is the cases against arrests. We've had about 97 arrests, just the first quarter, January to March, and then 41 convictions. So these 41 convictions are not cases that have just been within the quarter. Court cases, they run for months, if not years. So we are working very well with the community, and we appeal to the community to be very vigilant around especially transformers, because we've discovered that there is actually a big syndicate which we are here to break in terms of vandalism for transformers, where there are big fishes that entice young people. If you've noticed the trend, most of them that are arrested for vandalism are youths, young people. And then just a few days ago, one was electrocuted. The other time in Kitwe, one actually died. This one, the one for a few days ago, just sustained some burns. So we are making some headways, but the criminals are still out there, and we need to bring an end to that. Now imagine an area has been off supply for some time, for 4 hours or 8 hours, and then we turn back power on, right on the dot, and then only for the customers in a specific area to find that they have no power. only to realize that the transformer has been vandalized, and not just vandalized, it has been stolen. And then to replace that, it's not a thing of 1 minute or 2 minutes. That replacement has to be outsourced, has to be sought somewhere. Now, if it is not within Lusaka, maybe it is somewhere away from Lusaka. By the time we are transporting and making replacements, those are hours going, and those are lives that are being disturbed. So, and just last week, we arrested some 4 serious suspects that have been on the run. If you remember, in December, we had one of our security officers somewhere in Kapire that was fatally wounded and then died from gunshot wounds later in the hospital. So we made arrests last week for 4 of them, and we hope that when they get to court, that we get to also get some convictions. By law, people can go for as little as 10 years to up to as much as 25 years in prison just for vandalism, or being in possession of property that has been stolen, that is vandalized property, or even assisting. We have those drivers who give transport to those people that carry those vandalized items, the transformers, the cables. So even those, they are accomplices. They are treated as accomplices by law, that they are abated in the vandalism. So we are very happy and proud of communities that have reported and continue being vigilant. When power goes unexpectedly, we urge people to go in groups, to also prioritize their security, to go in groups and just check by the transformer. Is the transformer okay? Because that's the first aspect. And then if the transformer is not okay, then they get to report to ZESCO Security or Zambia Police. And then we coordinate very well, and quickly we'll dispatch a team to try to find the culprits and also prevent further damage to the property. So in a number of areas, people have been able to prevent serious damage to ZESCO property. So we urge that, please, let's be vigilant, let's not lose equipment, because already the first quarter we've lost about almost 15 million kwacha in terms of vandalized items. Last year, the whole of last year, we were standing at 24 to 25 million. Now this year, just one quarter, we're at almost 15 million, which is a sign that we are winning the fight, but again, the vandals are getting higher in terms of frequency of happening. But we are doing much better. We've increased patrols, and we are working well with communities where we do sensitizations, and then we just look at also how we can enhance the law in terms of when we have those people arrested. Maybe we do it like they did for cattle rustlers. That is now a non-bearable offense. Maybe even vandalism becomes a non-bearable offense. That would be something that will send a good message to the people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maombi, as well as Mr. Matongo, for gracing our breakfast show this morning. Although there's no cup of tea to make you feel a little bit warm.
We're hoping it's warm because it's cold outside.
All right, there has been Nelson Zulu on the Camnet TV breakfast show on a Wednesday, and we're talking issues of power balance, outlook, as well as mitigation measures amidst the load shedding that is being experienced in the country. And my guests this morning were Mr. Matongo Maombi, who is ZESCO spokesperson, as well as Otis Matongo, the marketing manager at ZESCO, just to help us understand and have an exact clear picture in terms of those concerns that have been coming pertaining load shedding. Be rest assured to join us tomorrow on Thursday as we get to dive into the world of politics, governance, as well as policy. It has been Nelson Zulu, and have a blessed morning.